Get involved 20146. That's your SMS line at Metropole TVKE across all your social media platforms. You are watching a Business AM. My name is Simba Elijah Charles again. Now, global vehicle exporter B Forward has a plans to be instrumental in the revival of the manufacturing sector by growing the delivery of equipment and spare parts to fill in the gap that was created in the country at the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the plans by the global exporter come at a time when a recent report by the Kenya Bureau of Statistics showed that the production of assembled vehicles experienced an upward trend, increasing from 768 units in August to 798 units in September 2020. Machinery and other capital equipment, including fuel and lubricants and transport equipment, accounted for 17.81, 12.57, and 11.51% of the total value of imports, respectively, according to the agency's report. Joining us this morning to shed light on the specific manufacturing sector import needs and trends amid the pandemic is B Forward Senior Manager, South and East Africa Group, John Mutahi. Mr. Mutahi, John, good morning, sir.
Good morning to you from this side of the world.
Happy to have you around at Metropole's Business AM.
Thank you so much, sir. We appreciate the opportunity.
I'd like to start this conversation like this before we actually talk exactly how you want to peg yourself in the manufacturing sector. Can you talk to me about what your experience has been in the entire of the 2020 period, and what are you looking forward to 2021?
I think in 2020 we had challenges, and
Yes.
this is a global pandemic that has affected not only B Forward, the vehicle exporter, but many other companies, locally and internationally. So we have experienced a huge amount of challenges here and there. And majorly because we are in the vehicle export business, the major challenge was now on the drop, where we find dealers a bit reluctant to purchase, to buy vehicles. Again, locally, the end users are also reluctant to spend the money because they don't know how long will this pandemic last.
Yes.
How long do I have to wait before I get back to the office? Or there are some people who lost their jobs. There are some companies who had pay cuts. So this was a huge challenge, and it did affect generally all the industries across the globe.
Question is going to be, how did you realign yourself to fit within the pandemic? What major strategies do you have to change just to continue serving the market that was still responsive during the pandemic?
Now, that's a very good question, Mr. Simba. And one of the items I would mention clearly is that B Forward has always been on the forefront when it comes to systems.
Yes.
So we invest a lot on systems. Unlike where there's a surprise, how do I work from home? How do I start now serving my customers? This one, we already resolved them even before the pandemic. I would say we were a step ahead generally. If you look at the local agents who we are working with, who are in Kenya and across the globe, is that they have the system. They can be able to issue invoices, negotiate for the customer, and have the vehicle sent. Now, one of the only challenge that was experienced was on the bottleneck.
Yes.
You see, vehicles are coming all the way from Japan and from the UK, from Dubai and other countries. But when they reach Mombasa, that's where the bottleneck was, because there was non-essential services which were cut out. So why would you need to be at the port? So those were some of the main challenges. But in terms of B Forward as a company, in preparation and how we realigned ourselves, I would say we upscaled our processes. We just upscaled a little bit more. But in terms of preparation, everything seems to have been ready.
Pretty much. All right, I just want us to look at the data that we have for you this morning in terms of the production of assembled vehicles in the country. And that specific area is what we're talking about, that even within the COVID-19 pandemic, there was some bit of jump in terms of the production of assembled vehicles in the country. Now, Mr. Mutai, you will say that, well,
Yes.
you have been in the business of spare
Yes.
parts that are coming into the
Correct.
country. How will you say, how big is the spare part market in the country?
In terms of the vehicle spare parts
Yes.
specifically, it's a big business. We are looking at before as a company, we have about 2.4 million spare parts which can supply the market needs of Kenya. Now, for the assembled vehicles, and I had this discussion previously, is that when you're looking at the assembled vehicles, the parts we are selling are for the used vehicles. The parts that if we are looking to supply that assembled, locally assembled vehicles, then they need to use either the current models existing in the markets. For example,
Yes.
an ECU is a small component in the car, but it's very vital. The engine control unit, those are very small components. I looked at the data for the Kenya side, where we have the three major vehicle assemblers, including the Kenya Motor Vehicles, and when you look at the parts they are supplying, parts including the bolts, the suspension springs, the tires, the batteries, those are general items they would supply. But when you look at the electrical component of the car, you find that there is a shortage in that section. So that's why now we come in to supplement the government in terms of what they're doing locally to try and enhance their services, and also to make sure that that car that you bought locally assembled, keeps on running for the longest lifespan possible.
Yes. And are we talking about brand new spare parts? That's the one that are coming in for the locally assembled vehicles, or are we talking about the used ones, sir?
The previous data, we were supplying the used parts.
Yes.
Huge number was used parts. If you remember back in 2009, that's when the government introduced. They said we are going to stop the assembling of the importation of the used parts in 2009. And we had many people, many traders locally along the River Road and other regions complain and protest to the government, because how can you stop the shipment of used parts where
Yes.
else you have not given us an option to work with locally? So that was the challenge at that back then in 2009. Now, when you look in 2019 is when they reintroduced.
Yes.
And allow me to quote a statement by one of the traders back in 2019, who said that is why we have a challenge in the market locally, where you have to brand basically everything in your vehicle. I don't know, Mr. Simba, if you have a number plate or on your side mirror, the number plate is on the windshield, the number plate is in every aspect of the car.
Yes.
Why would we be getting to that level? Ask yourself, why would I have to brand everything, my number plate? It's costly, it's time consuming for you, but it means there is a market for these used parts. Because when those used parts, when somebody knocks down your side mirror, basically they will go to another person and sell it.
Yes.
And now, because you have stopped the shipment of these used parts, you are creating a market for the used parts locally, however acquired. That's what basically you're creating on the local side, because the new parts would be expensive.
Yes.
Secondly is that the new parts also, they take time, because if you're going to order a new part, it will take much time. So maybe you're looking at 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or maybe 1 month before the part arrives. And thirdly, what I would like to just comment on is that the vehicle models keep on changing.
Yes.
2007 Toyota Harrier is not the same as 2010 Toyota Harrier, is not the same as 2014, and now we have 2020 Toyota Harrier.
Yes.
So the models are changing. So as they change, remember, you may not find a new part for a 2006, maybe Toyota Harrier. But your car still needs to be replaced. You still need to use the same car because it still has a long lifespan. Maybe it's just the nose cut that needs to be changed. Maybe it's just a small aspect of it that needs to be changed, and you can continue running.
Yes.
You know, when you do that analysis, you realize the government still needs these used parts to be able to sustain the vehicles which were bought previously, and they still in good running condition.
Pretty much. All right, Mr. Msai, let's
Yeah.
continue on that regulation. So, and I would like to ask you this question directly, the way that we have it this morning. Now, has regulation of the spare parts and motor vehicle space affected the uptake of imports into the country? Case in point, if you look at the budget policy statement 2021 and 2022, there is this radical plan from the government to actually make sure that in the next 5 to 8 years, there is no importation of a second-hand vehicle into the country. Is that affecting your business? And when you look at it, where do you peg yourself in this, what I like to say, a robust regulation of this specific industry?
That's a very good question. Very, very, very good question, Mr. Simba. And again, I will go back to the parts, and then I will bring back to the vehicle part.
Yes.
One is the parts sales is a huge business. The importation, as we are doing the exportation, you're doing the importation. The importation of parts is a very huge business. We are looking in the year 2018, 2019. The value of the used spare parts was about 98.9 million US dollars. Currently, so we are basically speaking of about 100 million US dollar. That's how much money this business accumulates for the country every year. Now, I have mentioned about the three assemblers in Kenya. This is the Associated Vehicle Assemblers, General Motors, and Kenya Motor Vehicles Assemblers. Now, those are the three. In wholesome, according to the data provided, I will not mention the sources, but according to the data, they can only do about 34,000 vehicles. Now, these 34,000 vehicles are to supply to the EAC, the East Africa Community. Kenya, for example, will only take about 15,000 of those vehicles. But the country is actually demanding 130,000 vehicles. If you look at the data for 2019, 130,000 vehicles were sold into the country. So 15,000 is what the government has told you, we will supply you with this number. So where is the other number, 115,000, going to come from? That's the major question. Yes, they may have goals. Yes, there are plans. Yes, there are moves towards that direction. But I don't say you bring in many students, then you try to identify where do we put them. I would say prepare the classroom, then start increasing the students.
That's
a basic analogy I would use.
Yes. But is it a bittersweet for you, Mr. Mutai? Because at the end of the day, you're still in that business for importing these spare parts, either new or used, and you're still in the business of importing these vehicles, either second-hand or new. Is it bittersweet for you, just looking for a place to peg yourself? Either way, the regulation goes?
That's true. That's true. Actually, either way the regulation goes. For us is to try and see where can we assist with information, where can we come in, where can we also go on towards the contribution of the millennial goals of the 2030 vision for Kenya. How do we come in to do all these activities? So it's a very important, but as you said, is more of bitter than sweet.
Let's talk about the
bitter sweet is more of bitter.
Yes. Let's talk about the proposition that you have for the manufacturing sector. You're saying that in 2021, you're going to be an integral part in the recovery or resumption to normalcy drive in the manufacturing sector. It's a beautiful proposition. You do know the focus that the government gives this specific sector. Mr. Mutai, can we talk about that this morning? What do we expect from Be Forward on that specific proposition?
Could I ask you just one more second, just to repeat the proposition itself?
Yes.
If you don't mind.
Yes. You're saying that your major plan for 2021 is to peg yourself within the manufacturing sector, that you want to support it fully. What sort of realignment we expect to see from Be Forward in 2021?
All right. That's a very good, and I will go straight to the point, is that some of the sectors is creation of employment and also the wealth growth locally. That's a very important part. And for example, the manufacturing industry wants to contribute about 10% into the GDP. That's annual growth. Now, if you're looking at contributing to that, you need to create employment. Mentioned that globally we have 127 local agents who are supporting our services. Basically, like what you have many M-Pesa shops in the country. And you know what that translates into? You have another Lucy, another Kamau, another Ochieng, another Victor employed. And so what is happening at the end of the day is they are all contributing to the national kitty. So then the country is able to grow progressively. So one is we continuously increasing the local agents who are supporting our services, who are selling on our behalf. Secondly is we are investing a lot more on machinery. As you understand that the manufacturing sector is very big, it's very broad, and there are so many sectors where we can come in.
Yes.
The second one is investment. When you're looking at the machinery, we realize the growth of Kenya, especially the housing as well as the construction of roads, is growing very fast. It means there are many people who are moving from one scale to the next, and so that person who may be Mr. Simba, if I use you as an example, who may have carried bricks from ground floor to the 17th floor of the apartment you're constructing in Kagundo may not necessarily need to do that. We will bring a machinery that can be able to do that task. So in that case, it means that person still needs something. So we have supplied the machinery required, but there is somebody else who now is could be rendered jobless. But realistically, that person will not be rendered jobless, because it means now the government needs, or we will also, as Be Forward with our local agents, we are training these people how to use our systems, how to run operations smoothly. Most of them actually are working from home. They are not working from the office.
Yes.
It's more to do now with human resource and discipline when they are working from home. So it's more of training on the skill development. And that's how we are contributing to the bigger picture of the Vision 2030 for Kenya.
Yes. When people see that specific announcement that you want to peg yourself within the manufacturing sector, the biggest question that people ask is, what incentive should I belong to this sector? Do I expect from Be Forward? Should I approach them in 2021? Would you speak into that as well, Mr. Mutahi?
You brought in a very important question. Actually, tomorrow marks 17 years since Be Forward started. March 17 of 2004 is when the company was started.
Yes.
And tomorrow we are launching our new campaign, where we are saying we are giving away gifts and also discounts, as well as the campaign runs for about $10,000, which will be given to some of these exporters who will be buying from us beginning tomorrow onwards through the year. Now, this is not the only item we are doing. We do these activities every other month.
Yes.
So we have incentives that are able to sustain our customers. I know today I will give you bread, but once you go, you eat that bread, tomorrow you'll be wondering, why are you not giving me something today? So of course, we understand that, and we are in business. 17 years, we have also learned, should I say, the ropes and the curves, how to navigate the waters. So within these this 2021, we have so many plans aligned. One, as mentioned, is the 17th year anniversary.
Yes.
Secondly, we are always ready to listen to customers' needs, and that's why we open up many other local agents' offices in Kenya to try and address customers' concerns. The third I would mention also is we will be introducing a Buy 5 campaign. Most of our dealers, if there's anyone listening to this conversation, they are aware that we are always giving out about $1,500 just for buying the car from us. And without forgetting the youth, okay? The youth are very important, because I say, today you're a youth, you're 17 or maybe you're 15, but tomorrow you may be wanting to buy a car. And today you have good internet in your house. We have had to learn the hard way that we can work from home comfortably. We have had to learn the hard way. The reason I'm saying the hard way is the first stage was a shock to all of us. When you're told go work from home, you think like tomorrow you'll be fired.
Yes.
But we have learned that it's possible to work from home. So these youth who are working, who are currently at home, maybe jobless, we would be able now to assist them when it comes to ideas to do with BFS. We have a Be Forward support system. What I'm saying is yourself, Mr. Simba, you have a cousin who wants to buy a car. Not necessarily you. Probably you're not in a capacity to buy the car. You recommend that person to buy the car. Once the person purchases the car, you get your cut for referring that person to me, and actually they purchase the car. So we are looking at a bigger picture, how we can incorporate in all sectors of the country, from the youth to the dealers and to other fields as well.
Pretty much. Mr. Mutahi, let's clear this conversation like this then. Everybody is saying, well, 2021 is the year. We expect things to turn around. I mean, we're still chatting Q1 of 2021, but if you look around, we're still talking about extension of curfews. Other countries are getting back to lockdowns as well. They're calling them lockdown 5.0. And the biggest indicator of a working economy is when you have more imports coming in and a lot of exports going out, meaning that, well, that economy is trading with its neighbors. Are you approaching 2021 with some sort of optimism, or you already have the key indicators that, wow, things are back to normal?
Correct. I have key indicators. Things are back to normal.
Yes.
And this is the reason why in 2020, around the month of March, if you look at the data for the vehicles which came in,
Yes.
around March it was okay. Around April, May, June, that's when there was a decrease.
Yes.
Realistically, there was a decrease, not because people did not have money, not because people were not ready to purchase the cars, not because there was shortage of cars.
Yes.
No, that was not the reason. The main reason why that was the case is because of the shock. Everybody, there's a new norm. How do we handle this? I need to work from home. So what happens? I need to start purchasing a computer. I need to start purchasing a desk. I need to start arranging for a comfortable working place in the house. I'm working from house right now as we are having this discussion. But could we have tried to have this meeting in 2018? Probably would have said, why don't you just come to the office? You see? But now, this is the new norm. We have to keep the ball rolling even with these tough times.
Yes.
So you look at last year, there was a decrease of about 50%. And this experience of a drop was not in the first quarter. The first quarter was okay for the vehicle imports, exports. I'm looking from my side, exportation to Kenya. In the first quarter, the numbers were good.
Yes.
In the second quarter, that's when there was a drop. And the main reason why there was a drop is that shock I mentioned about. And the other one was when there was a reduction of people, the non-essential services. Like, why do we need to go to the port to clear these vehicles? Those are some of the reasons. And the other one I mentioned, when it comes to, I want to spend money, but then I don't know how long this will last. So you see, those are the challenges. Come to 2020, around October, the numbers started going back to normal. And they have been like that progressively. As a B forward, and I will not mention the exact numbers, we sold more in November and December than last year, 2019, where there was no corona cases. So if that is not a clear indication that the markets have resumed, I would not be expecting any other indicator from my point of view.
Pretty much. Mr. Mutai
Yes.
John, Senior Manager, Forward South and East Africa Group, thank you very much for taking your time this morning to speak to us here at Metropole Television's Business AM.
Thank you so much, Mr. Simba. It was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure. All right, we take a short break here on a Business AM. Once we come back, top issues, KTDA. The president has ordered an audit into the director's activities, but also those indicators that we're talking about this morning. Looks like February is not a bad month for the taxman because there's a 24% increase in the collections if you compare them back to last year. Shortly after we come back.